to tell the Jewish people, you can't have Israel. I promised the Arabs that you would not annex the West Bank. Are you serious? You're really talking to God. You're really saying to him, I don't really care what you said, what you're going to give the Jews. No, you cannot annex, make it part of your country. I'm sorry. Why? Because I promised the Arabs. Who cares what you promised? Who are you to promise the Arabs anything? In fact, you're lucky to be alive. You were a quarter of an inch away from death. That's where you were. And God pulled you out of that. He displayed an open miracle, right? An open miracle to the entire world, which he never does, because he doesn't want to reveal his might, because then it will take away your free will. You'll be so overcome by what you just saw. But he did it anyway. Why? Because he wants you to live. To do what? To be an agent for righteousness and to help the Jews bring the Messiah and to turn the world around the evil that it has and so on. And you tell the Jewish people, I'm sorry, you can't do this? Who are you? Who do you think you are? You see, you don't realize, none of us realize really, the severe slap in the face that he did to God's honor. We don't realize who you're addressing. And you're talking about a fundamental truth that God says in his Torah. How many times? 100 times? Just like this. I'm sorry, you cannot annex it. I mean, in Yiddish or Hebrew, whatever, they call it chutzpah neiro, awesome, chutzpah, audacity, to even talk like that. And he's talking to Netanyahu, who's a nobody, but basically he is the prime minister of Israel. He represents the Jewish people. In fact, he represents the position that the Jews are now in. Finally, for the first time, they're on a position to annex the West Bank. That will mean that the entire land of Israel is in total command or possession of the Jewish people. You have any idea how many years that has been missing? And you want to stop it? Bad news for Trump. He doesn't understand what he is opening. So God looks at the United States and says, look, you're messing around with my plan. You're allowing the evil of Yishmael to be alive, to flourish, to continue to harass Israel. You're allowing that. You're stopping my redemption by this. Okay. Why? Because you, Trump, want a legacy? Well, this isn't what I sent you for. This isn't why I kept your brain from the bullet. That's not why I let you live. I performed an unbelievable miracle for you in front of the entire world. And this is what you're doing? You're more worried about your legacy with the Nobel Prize or whatever you're after and so on than giving Israel its land that I promised them thousands of years ago. That's what you're more interested? Then I need to teach you a lesson. And since you're doing it as president, I'm not going to punish you individually. I will punish the country because you represent the country. So what will I do to you? You want to deny my people its share of the land? Guess what? I'm going to deny you your major city. New York is America, basically. It's the greatest economy, the greatest democracy. Of course, it's going to be not empty, but it's going to be empty of people that can contribute its tax base. And it's going to happen quick, This is the einish that was expected. I was wondering, how is God going to punish Trump? It's interesting, because I knew it was going to come. You can't get away with this, especially If you were born to be a messianic figure, you're playing with fire. You remind me of Jonah and the whale. That's what you remind me of, and so on, you know. You can't do that. Once God picks you, you can't just, well, I'm giving up the job. What are you talking about? God performed a major miracle. Nes Nigla. The bullet missed you by 1/4 inch. It's incredible. Not only that, the whole fact that the guy got up there to shoot you is a miracle. With an FBI, where were these jokers? and so on, you see. So the whole thing is a nes nigla, obviously. So don't you think, did you ask yourself, wait a minute, if this is what God pulled off for me, what does he expect? Not only that I obviously am sent on a mission, but what he's expecting is something extraordinary. What is it? Did you ask yourself what it is? Did you ask what is the divine plan or whatever? Or you're relying on your political theory? That's what he doesn't understand. It's one thing to know you were saved by God. It's one thing to know that you were saved by God for a divine mission. But it's another thing to know what you're saved for. And it's another thing to defy it. To have the gall to defy it. And when it comes to Israel, watch out. That's the problem you don't understand. God doesn't tolerate. He waits. But when the time comes, and he knows when the time is, you're finished. The judgment drops, and you're on your way out. And I was waiting for that. I knew something's going to happen. Because you don't talk to Israel that way. You don't realize that. But I believe this is the punishment for America for denying Israel its right to begin the messianic process, which is the West Bank, the territories. That needs to come back. You're talking about Hebron, you know. You're talking about not just Hebron, but you talk about Shechem. You talk about all the biblical lands. I mean, that was the major biblical area and so on. And God wants it back because it has to be built up for the messianic presence and so on.